Maven Hoffman, who renewed success in the wrestling business as a YouTuber now, of course.
Yeah.
He was talking about WWE and how he believes that the WWE is now in a worse position than it was a few years ago when Vince McMahon was still in charge. So here's the quote. I came up in a time when in the ring you listened, and if something wasn't working because the fans were not reacting, you did something else. And if that didn't work, well, hell, you did something else. And if you stuck with what you had planned and it wasn't working, you were going to get your ass chewed out the moment you got backstage. And the first person to chew your ass definitely was Vince McMahon. And that actually leads me to my next point. I guarantee that this will be controversial. Now, I don't think professional wrestling is a better product without Vince at the helm. I'm well aware of the allegations, and no part of me is insinuating that WWE should bring Vince back. I don't think so, and I don't want to co-sign anything he did. But yeah, I mean, obviously leaving out all the allegations, there's been no news, no interesting news, particularly for the Janelle Grant case for ages. But is wrestling missing a Vince McMahon, almost a tyrant, almost someone that you fear or need the approval of, kind of thing? Because Tony Khan's obviously not that guy. Triple H is probably not a guy either.
Tony is not that guy. I think they are missing a really head of authority. Triple H, he's the head, but nobody really, he doesn't really jump on people. He talks to them and he's respectful. I'll say that for him. Vince didn't give a crap. I mean, if you went out there and you did something, he would just, he wouldn't cuss you out, but he would yell at you and kind of scream at you backstage where the go position is, and you wouldn't do it again. Thankfully, he never yelled at me, he never screamed at me or anything. But WWE is in dire need right now of a product. I don't think that, to me, that the new guys they got, I don't think are filling in for some of the guys they replaced. And the guys that need replacing are still there. They've been there 10 years. It's like a football team. If you have a running back and all of a sudden he's not getting the production that he got in recent years, what do? They get another running back. But they're having trouble replacing these guys, and none of them are very interesting to me now. This is one of my big pet peeves, and I think every fan listening to this will kind of agree with me. Those entrances, musical entrances, are way, way too long. If you have if it's a 4-man tag, it will take them at least 10 minutes of TV time to just get all 4 of them in the ring. That's 2.5 minutes for every one of them. And that's plenty of time. You can walk from the entrance when you first come into the entrance. You can walk, if you want to, just straight in. You get there in 15 seconds. But no, the music, and they're playing to the music, and they're doing this. And hell, if I wanted to listen to the radio, I'd turn on the radio. And then and you got 2 guys in the ring, then they're looking at each other while the other guy's making the entrance. Then you got 3 guys looking at each other while the other guy's making the entrance. It's just too long, and is not only is it predictable, there's nothing that goes on during that time. But they need to change that. They need some different stories. They need just to shuffle it all up and see what happens. They might need another big plan like they had for our Goldberg that time. Just say, well, the people don't like him, so hell, let's do this with him. See if something works. And the way they find out something works is they go to the house shows and they do different things. I saw Mark Calloway, the Undertaker, the other day. He was showing these different moves that he tried to do to see if any of them would catch on. And he did the moves fine, but see, he had a gimmick he was trying to perfect. So finally, when he just did the big squash and sits down with them, that was his finish. So he stayed with that. But I mean, you can't really compare I'm jumping subjects here. But the Undertaker gimmick sits all by itself. Nothing else can really sit with it like anybody else's gimmick can. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. I want to bring this up to you, Dutch. 5 matches. Raw always has 5 matches now, it seems. And it's 2.5 hours. It was 3 hours, really, but at 2.5 hours of the show. I think it was half an hour before a match got in the ring. And then that was Rusev and Penta, which ended in a double DQ. There are no... I don't think there are any B-show or dark matches beforehand. I mean, I say this all the time, but yeah.
Did they open the show with an in-ring?
They opened the show with a very long in-ring interview with Jey Uso yeeting. He didn't open his mouth until 10 minutes into the show.
Who was this?
Jey Uso.
What'd they do? Just clips up to then?
No, his entrance took that long. I mean, they did like a vignette to open the show, and then they did like 7 minutes of entrance just for Jey Uso. Then
Just
CM Punk
7 minutes?
Yeah, it went forever. Then CM Punk came out, took forever. Then they did the promo. It was seriously half an hour before Rusev walked to the ring for the opening match. You just don't get your money's worth anymore. I think also people forget just how bloody awful WWE was with Vince McMahon at the helm, especially the late 2010s, early 2020s. You were reviewing SmackDown every week for years, and you said that it got better, markedly better, when Triple H took over as chief creative officer for a bit. And now there might be more logic to the shows for the most part, but they drag even longer. They just drag and drag and drag, and they're just a slog to get through.
To me, that's not laziness on the creative team's part. It's just I think Triple H is not putting the pressure on them, because Vince used to put pressure on them. You'd see those writers, and they'd look as stressed out as they could be. And I've said this before. This is how I found out Vince's mood. Every time I did Raw or SmackDown and Vince was there, I would look in the writer's room. And if they were all relaxed and didn't seem like they were ready to commit suicide, Vince was okay. But when I looked in there and they're all nervous and jumpy and edgy, I could tell that Vince was on a warpath. That's how I would tell.
I also thought about this, right? Because as you know, Dutch, obviously you know this, I collate the news of the past week. This time it was 2 weeks because we missed last week. And I'll tell you what, I could barely find enough to talk about in 2 weeks at the moment. October, all across the board this year, has been dead for wrestling news. I'm not feeling, like ever since SummerSlam, I'm not feeling any particular buzz for anything that's happening in wrestling at the moment. Everything just seems to be in autopilot. I don't know if it's going to be that way for Survivor Series, but just everything seems to be in autopilot at the moment. It's tough to get G'd up for pro wrestling at the moment. Well,
they're not doing anything. They're not giving you anything to get, excited about. They have to do it. You can't, you got to give the fans something that they want to see, that they're dying to see how it ends or how it progresses. And wrestling's always been that way. And I've said this before, it's always the story. You got to start the story and you got to go through the story. But when I was booking, I never ended a story. I would look like it would end, but I never ended it to where I couldn't go back to it if I needed it. And a lot of times I'm glad I didn't end the story, because probably 2 weeks, you can't make the right call all the time. And when something I had planned didn't go, I would go back to what I'd tried before. And you can do that a couple of times, and that's it. So finally, you just got to give up on it. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but you got to do these stories. And sometimes even watching it in the ring, it would just come to me. The next step we need to take in this is this, and we do it, and it would continue to going. I sold out in Puerto Rico because I was the only one doing the booking. I didn't have a creative team. I just did what I wanted to do, and I had 2 years there of almost not sellouts every week, but I had probably 10 or 12 sellouts in the big building. And that's a lot. That's like once or twice a month.
This is a booking question I've never asked you before, Dutch. Let's say you've got a card with, let's say it's a big card, 8 matches, televised, everything. How many of those matches should have stories going into it, and how many of those matches should be matches for matches' sake?
Well, you can't not on your big show. You try to have at least say you're going to have 8 matches. I never liked 8 matches. I always thought that was too long. That was too many matches. I would have 6, but I would have at least 5 of them have a story. Then I would lead up to it.
What about on TV? Because, I mean, you've just got to just have some wrestling matches for the sake of it, just to entertain the fans. Or vignettes. Get one person over, yeah.
Vignettes.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I kept everything alive. Because I had a guy in Puerto Rico that was a tremendous video guy. And I would tell him, and sometimes he would tell me, listen, I want to do this. Okay, we'll do it. And every time I had a big show, the last thing they would see on the Saturday TV show was like a 5 or 6 minute vignette of everything we had done up to that point, and it ends tonight, and that was the last thing they would see.